second place in P3.
Position in the LMP3. It was very tricky conditions out there.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I'm not the pole position. I think a driver killed me on the last lap, just on the finish line. And yes, I think I lose the pole position for less 1/10, 0.5 tenths. So yes, the track was very tricky, and lap after lap we had less water on the track, so we was improving the lap time more and more. So yeah, the balance of the car is good. This is the most important. We have a very good lineup, so we will see during the race.
Thank you very much.
Doesn't that just show you how quickly that session was changing, though, because it was literally at the death. There are the thumbs up from the 360 Racing crew and the team principal. Ross Kaiser snatching it away from Dino Lunardi, who looked a little disappointed, but we have got a 4-hour race to look forward to later on. Qualifying only counts for so much, Bruce.
Yeah, now we've got a different batch of Ligiers without dimples in their noses, Johnny, for you to get your eyes around, because we've got 15 LMP2 cars going out onto the circuit. But yes, when Dino Lunardi started his final lap, he was 1.1. When he finished it, he was 1.1 seconds clear. But it just shows how Ross Kaiser and Enzo Guibert closed right in, and Alex Brundle as well all but matched him, but super close. But now I think we're going to get it even closer still in LMP2, because looking out of the window from the commentary box, there is a dry line around the circuit, but again, it's about the drivers trying to get heat into their tyres. The track temperature is now at a lofty 6 degrees. Air temperature has gone above 4 degrees. It is very cold and wet, and some of the lucky fans at Silverstone actually can ride around the outside of the circuit on the top of a double-decker bus with Wi-Fi signal, and they can check it all out. But the good news for now is the snow of this morning has dispersed. The sky is starting to break up. It is getting drier, but it's going to be very easy when the LMP2 runners, 15 of them, don't forget, go out onto the circuit. One little slip because they haven't got enough heat in their tyres, and they could absolutely wreck their session. Not wishing ill on anyone. It's going to be hugely exciting. The car you can see at the front of the queue, not the orange one over there. I was talking about the one on the right, the 41 Greaves Motorsport Ligier. That should be the first one out of the pit lane, but you can see from the left of the screen the Thierry by TDS Racing Orica 05 fancies being the first one allowed out. It comes from one of the final pit garages, so perhaps they will allow that onto the circuit. Thierry by TDS Racing been so strong on the in the championship over the past 3 seasons. So let's see what they can get up to. And the G-Drive Racing Gibson in the middle. Simon Dolan, Harry Ticknell and Guido van der Garde, that had all sorts of problems yesterday and lost a lot of track time. Sat in the garage, and in fact in the second 1.5-hour practice session set not one flying lap. So they've got a lot of ground to make up. Track conditions completely different. SMP Racing with 2 of their BR01s are here. That's the Julien Lial, Andres Worth and Stefano Coletti, who's having his first go in cars with roofs, all looking to make their mark this weekend. And obviously doing so alongside the World Endurance Championship is a good place to go and to display your skills, Johnny.
What we get in LMP2 for 2016 is a tyre battle between the French manufacturer Michelin and Dunlop. There are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cars, 10 cars on the Dunlop rubber and 4 on Michelin. There are all sorts of different chassis in this category as well. 6 Ligier JSP2s. There are 3 of the new Oricas, the 05, 2 of the older Oricas, the 03Rs. That's the updated version of the 03. 2 from SMP Racing, the BR01s. That's their own design and go very quickly to the BR01 engineering cars. They've done some fantastic business over the winter period as well to sign some big names from the single-seater world of motorsport, IndyCar and GP2 series. The lone Gibson 015S, which is fashioned by G-Drive Racing for this year, formerly Jota Sport, but it's a bright orange car, number 38 for 2016. And there's one Morgan as well, which went pretty well in free practice yesterday with Leo Russell at the wheel for Pegasus Racing.
2 Morgans, because we're looking at the other one, which is in the innovative car class. That's not always easy to say. SRT 41 by Oak Racing. Frederic Sausset, driver with no legs, limited arm function. He is racing in a special class because he has to have special controls on the steering wheel. He's sharing his Morgan, the 84 entry, with Christophe Tanceau and Jean-Bernard Bouvet. But they have the target of Le Mans this year, so coming out to play beforehand. But play indeed for everybody out there. Less than 10 minutes in this session to go. We've already burnt up 15 seconds as the first few cars go out onto the track. And of course, they will be experiencing it for the first time this morning, just seeing how much, or more to the point, how little grip they have to play with. But TDS Racing out on the circuit, the number 46, the number they've had for so many years, just out there looking for grip as it goes through Chapel Curve onto the Hangar Straight, being the first car out of the pit lane. Of course, no spray in the driver's face as they go down to Stowe for the first time. Stowe is fast right-hander, not as fast as it used to be. Many circuit modifications over the decades at Silverstone, but a place where water can sit, and you can see the corrections of the steering wheel, just trying to get heat into the tyres, trying to get just half an iota of an inkling where the grip can be found. Again, it's quite hard as they turn into Vale to go through. Just see where the water is sitting, just to the exit of Club. You can see on the apex of the corner, there's a bit of a puddle there. Staying out wide is the line to take, Johnny.
The other thing we have in this category is an engine battle with Nissan versus Judd. It's the Nissan 4.5 litre V8 versus the Judd 3.6 V8. And the Judd runners, by the way, numbers 22, the So 24 by Lombard Racing squad, IDEX Sport with their Ligier, and Race Performance are back, the Swiss squad in number 34. But we're looking at the number 46 car here, the Thierry by TDS Racing Orica 05. And this team so eager to win this championship once again. Pierre Thierry, Matthias Besch and Ryo Hirakawa. Matthias Besch and Ryo Hirakawa with brilliant pace in free practice yesterday.
Yeah, Thierry, the team boss, the team owner, is a driver who knows his car very well. Been racing it on and off for 1.5 seasons now, but the others dialing in, and certainly Matthias Besch, every time he's been out in this Orica, he's absolutely flown. And Hirakawa getting to know the British circuit very well indeed, and really making his mark. That looks a really well-balanced driver lineup. Now, of course, they do a lap and a half before they set a flying lap, because they depart from the Heritage pit lane, come around half a lap, start their first flying lap. So we won't be able to tell you what the 46 Orica is managing time-wise, but what we can is visually it's staying on the sensible parts of the circuit, the black parts, rather than going over the curbs and onto the grass or the tarmac runoff beyond. But going through Beckett's right now, kicking up so much spray, but importantly staying off the curbs, because of course the curbs always retain water and just don't have the grip of the tarmac. Now the left-hander, gentle left-hander at Chapel, but of course exit speed important, because you carry that all the way down the straight towards Stowe, and then the Vale, and then Club, the corners that remain on this lap, but we have an off.
Murphy Prototypes at Luffield, and the car snapping away from the driver there, and I'll tell you in a moment who is at the wheel. It's the orange, white and green helmet of Damien Faulkner, and the rear end there snapping away at Luffield. I hope the car not fully buried in the stones.
It looks like he might be able to drive out the back of the gravel trap there. If he can, fine, he's wasted the lap, but hopefully no more. If he can't, well, that will be session over and out, and a very red face indeed. So Thierry by TDS go top on the timing screens.
The red flag is out though, and that must be because of the Murphy Prototypes
It's
car.
going no further. It hasn't managed to get around the gravel at the back. Sometimes they can manage to do so. So Matthias Besch did set a flying lap, 2 minutes 7.621 seconds. Let's look at a replay. Oh, the car snapped away at David. He wanted a bit of traction, found none at all, and unfortunately found the giant gravel trap and kept it going probably 60% of the way round, and then just in front of the Motul Banat, well, he's actually clouted the barrier on the outside. He's just trying to get traction, and the car was just sinking in, and now it's on its belly. Wow, can that be taken out and put back on the circuit? It'd certainly be full of gravel, which we wouldn't want littering the circuit at all. Matthias Besch has provisional pole position, and none of the other runners in LMP2 managed to get around before the red flag came out to complete a flying lap.
That number 48 car has suffered hydraulic problems so far this weekend. They changed all of the master cylinders, then it had an oil leak in the second free practice session yesterday. A weekend to forget for Murphy Prototypes up until this point, but it can only get better for the Irish crew. They're here with 2 cars this weekend, this one in LMP2 and a second in LMP3, the number 14 machine. Michael Cullen, Tony Arve and Doug Peterson, due to be a Riley from Imola onwards in the European Le Mans Series, but the Riley not quite ready. Well, I understand it is ready, but it needs to be tested for a couple of weeks before they bring it to a race meeting. So that will happen at Imola in Italy in May.
Well, it's red flag, as you can see, in the TDS Racing Car on provisional pole, Matthias Besch going back into the pit lane while they wait. The other runners going around the circuit, just trying to keep sight of laps. But they have to get, of course, back as they passed us in the wing. They're half a lap away from where the TDS Racing entry is. I think Matthias Besch will go and park at pit exit, ready to take the green light when the session is rejoined. As we saw, the marshals trying their hardest to get the 48 Murphy prototypes entry out of the gravel. They were doing well by manpower, and then it seemed to heave to a halt. So I'm afraid a tow is required. As you can see, the rear end of the car is really quite deeply in the gravel there. There's still quite a lot of beach in front of Damien as Damien sits there absolutely frustrated. You could see the car just snapping away halfway around Luffield, possibly. Well, the front end washed away first, and it just dragged the car with it out through the gravel, and then diminishing returns. But already the first few drivers have got to pit exit in the Heritage pits, and of course that may mean we only get effectively 3 flying laps that count, because it's red flag incursion. Getting to learn the cars for this year, the number 33 entry is from Eurasia Motorsport, and it's shared this year by Pu Junjin, the Chinese driver, again with Nico Pito de Bruyne, the Dutchman, but Tristan Gomendy, a hot shoe who was normally in the 46 car, which you see at the front of the screen. He's moved teams this year, but someone who needs to move mountains, not teams, is Damien Faulkner to get out of the gravel down at Luffield.
A very late deal for Damien Faulkner to get involved with the Murphy Prototypes crew, joining Sean Balfe and Sean Doyle. So 2 Irishmen and Sean Balfe with an awful lot of experience in British GT from yesteryear, racing a Mosler, I seem to remember, and so it's good to have Murphy Prototypes back on board. Sadly for them, though, I think that's just about it for them in the session, depending on whether the car can be clean. But you're quite right, understeering initially, Bruce, and then the rear end tried to snap into line, but before Damien could catch it, there's so little runoff there, isn't there? Because you got grass immediately into a gravel trap at Luffield.
Well, in fact, what we saw there was he lost it really much earlier in the corner than I'd realised. It was almost at turn-in. He'd gone deep into the corner, and then the front started washing. You could see from the car behind that they were able to get to turn in. Admittedly, they had to hammer on, really hit the brakes because they couldn't tell at that stage if Damien was going to be spinning right in front of them or carrying on. Obviously, seconds later they could tell that he was going on because he went straight on and across that gravel. But enormously frustrating for Damien, who's been such a star in particularly Porsches over the year, but stepping up, trying to make his mark now in the prototype classes, and got a little bit caught out.
So here's a view of the cars queued up, ready to rejoin the session. The clock, as you can see, has stopped at 6 minutes and 38 seconds. But as Bruce says, we've got another outlap to do before you can then, well, half an outlap before they then get to the wing end of the Silverstone circuit and can start to do flying laps again.
But such is the nature of the day. Within 10 minutes of the end of this qualifying session, the World Endurance Championship goes out for its run through its various classes of qualifying. It's a really jam-packed programme here at Silverstone. We've got British Porsche Carrera Cup action as well. So now, thank goodness, the tractor has got there to lift the front end, or take the roll hoop and lift the Murphy Prototypes car with it, and no doubt with Damien still staying on board, they've got to remove that car as quickly as possible.
Sean Galisle was at the wheel of the SMP Racing BR01, sharing that drive with Mitch Evans and Antonio Giovinazzi this weekend. All 3 drivers arguably more at home behind the wheel of a single-seater, but using this massive amount of downforce offered by an LMP2 car to a great extent, and they can draw comparison, well, many drivers have across the weekend, between a single-seater and a modern-day prototype.
Just while we were looking at there and the removal of the number 48 entry, you can see in the background of the pit lane, the long shot, you can see the white number 21 entry from Dragon Speed. They're not bothering to sit at pit exit. In fact, they're pushing the car back into the garage, whether to make adjustments in the comfort of the garage or just keep the car out of potential rain, as in fact the sky is getting better and better above us here at Silverstone. Maybe we will get some spring-like weather, but Dragon Speed running clearly a slightly different option as they sit there waiting for the restart. But no doubt they'll be looking at the monitors in their pit garage and assessing how long they reckon it will take for the Murphy Prototypes Orica 03 Art to be removed with Damien Faulkner from the gravel at Luffield. But of course Luffield not far away from pit entrance to the Heritage pit, so it shouldn't take them too long once they've got him clear of the gravel for the car to come back. And Damien Faulkner will have all his digits crossed, hoping the car can be shaken, pulled clear, shaken out of gravel, and then go out and put in at least one qualifying lap.
It'll be a tough ask because
It will.
the car won't be able to go out on track and shake that gravel loose, because then that compromises everybody else's run through Copse Corner and up to Beckett's. You mentioned the Dragon Speed car. That was being driven by Nicolas Lapierre, a man who's on double duty this weekend with the European Le Mans Series and the World Endurance Championship. Still waiting for times for pretty much all of the LMP2 cars. It's just Matthias Besch who managed to sneak in a time in the 46 car, and we're told that the session will restart very shortly. We're literally just waiting for that number 48 car to be straight lifted away and taken presumably towards the pit lane, or it might just be plonked back onto the circuit and left for Damien Faulkner to bring the car in. But it's a question of being very patient if you're strapped into these cars.
The only driver who can relax is Matthias Besch, because he has got one time on the board. But all the time we're waiting here, the track is getting drier. There's no further rain forecast for the rest of the day, as far as I understand. And there, maybe by leaning it forward so much, it will tip some of the gravel out of the front. But Damien Faulkner resolutely staying on board, hoping against maybe all reality that the car can get out. A shot down in the pit lane, you can see the puddles just sitting in front of the cars. It has been wet, and if you've just dialed in, Silverstone had a snow flurry this morning. We hadn't expected it. We thought it might stay towards the north of England. And people in the pit lane assure me it wasn't a flurry. It kept going for about an hour, but it hadn't been expected, and it's taking quite a while to dry the circuit out. But what we're seeing in these sessions, this one's been curtailed. The red flag, hopefully, will be withdrawn shortly, and we'll get the final 6.5 minutes of this 10-minute qualifying session for the LMP2 runners in the European Le Mans Series. But hopefully everyone will keep it on the black stuff, but certainly trying to get heat in the tyres. The track temperature is only about 6.5 degrees. It's going to be very difficult indeed. And of course, as you mentioned, trying to get the concentration spot on again for a restart, knowing you've got to clear the traffic, not run behind someone who puts spray in your face, and deliver a quick time. It's quite a big ask at the moment.
It's also very cold here at Silverstone, and a warm body sat in an enclosed cockpit will create some misting of the rather small windows in these cars. So that's the reason why many doors are open up and down the pit lane, just to try and cool the inside of the car as well.
I think the hottest place is probably inside Damien Faulkner's helmet, though.
Do you reckon? Yeah, I do begin to wonder what words might be being uttered under his breath there, under that very Irish helmet. But it's, again, very patient game. He's inching his way closer to the track.
Engines firing up, so it suggests the signal is being shown.
Green. Session has been resumed. Session has been resumed.
Well, that was good to hear. So Eduardo Freitas, race director, saying session has been resumed. Now you can see the cars are going out almost nose to tail. I've said it before and I'll say it again. They have to get work themselves into a position of clear track. We have at least 18 of the runners able to go out onto the circuit. They've got to make a bit of space. Now, is this the best place to be going? Certainly at the outset, Matthias Besch, without fogged up the windscreen, Johnny, so they did good work with their doors, has got clear track ahead of him. But right behind is the number 38 entry. That's the G-Drive Racing entry, and they will be very, very keen to try and get the clear track that Besch has at the moment, because Harry Tincknell has not set a flying lap, and Tincknell just, all of them trying to get heat into their tyres. If I was him, I try not to be too much of a hero, but I'd try and get past Matthias Besch. But we know Besch has been very quick in everything he's done.
Qualifying specialist Harry Tincknell, the 38 car, when it was painted in Jota Sport livery, managed 4 pole positions in 2015 from only 5 races. So certainly they will start as one of the favourites for pole position here, but they don't have a time at all in the bank, whereas Matthias Besch, who we now ride on board with, does have that banker time. He's trying to turn the car in at club. Needs about 3 or 4 attempts at it. Over the grid hatchings we go, and this is the flying lap that we start.
Now, so yes, the flying lap starts just back there, so into the first corner there at Abbey, and then coming up towards the third corner Village. But the important thing, in the previous shot we saw Harry Tincknell sitting right under his rear wing, but by the time they came to start-finish line, Tincknell had slowed through club to give himself clear visibility. He's setting off, he's using his brain. You can see there's a bit of a gap. In the background, the 41 entry from Greaves Motorsport, the McDonald's liveried Ligier, goes around third in the line of cars. But this is the lap that really counts in many ways. This is the one where each of the drivers on the track will be able to actually record a flying lap, because so far only the driver on your screen, Matthias Besch, really quick Swiss driver, has managed to get one in. He did that just before the red flag was flown. He's sitting pretty, in fact, fastest of all the cars, ahead of all the LMP3 cars, as you would expect in terms of performance, but he's got the one on the board. We'll have to wait to see which of the others can do so. I'm sure they will all do so, but it's a question of how hard they dare push on this lap, because they may only have 2 more laps to follow.
Certainly sensible to be within the envelope, at least in the early stages of what has now become effectively a 5-minute session, and then try and push for any bonus times if you've still got the ability to. The car just about being kept on the track there by Matthias Besch, but he's using absolutely every inch of the Beckett's left-right-left sequence, and through Chapel Curve. This is important to get the slingshot down the hill along the Hanger Straight. He's already a second up on his previous best time.
And he's just set a new fastest second sector of all, but I think these are slightly meaningless because it was much wetter when they went out at the start of this LMP2 only final qualifying session for the opening round of the European Le Mans Series. Very happy to use quite a lot of curb on the exit of Stowe as they drop down into the Vale. In the background you can see Harry Tincknell trying to make his mark, but now this is the corner that you really don't want to blow it. You've done all the work around the lap and you go right, and right some more through Club, and there you can see the start finish straight. Half the car over the curbing on the exit. Does he improve his time? Yes, he does. 2 minutes 6.471. What can Harry Tincknell do? Waiting for the clock to tick through. 2 minutes 8.436, just under 2 seconds down, but effectively that was Tincknell's first flying lap, and Kuba Gibaziak went into third. Now that's fifth because Coletti has put the BR01 into second place, but 1.1 seconds down on Matthias Besch. It's quick fire at the top.
And Leo Roussel, a time of 2:08.8, puts the Pegasus Morgan fourth. So it's Besch from Coletti, Tincknell, Roussel, and Paul-Luc Chatin now fifth in the number 23 car, the Panis Barthes competition Ligier.
But one of the keys there, we've got 5 different makes of chassis. Orica, BR01, Gibson, Morgan and Ligier in the top 5 positions. Great variety in the LMP2 class of the European Le Mans Series. Just under 2.5 minutes remaining. This is going through so quickly. Can anyone do anything? We need to see some pink sector times. That means the fastest sector time of all on the screen. If anyone is going to topple Besch, it's Besch from Coletti and Tincknell. There's the Dragon Speed entry, number 21, Nicolas Lapierre. Not at the top of our time charts yet, but he was the last one out of the pit lane. He did the reverse process. He hung back and has had the clear track. Going through Stowe, dropping down into the Vale. Let's see what he can do. The target time, 2 minutes 6.471 seconds. What can the Frenchman, who is so busy this weekend? He's competing in the 4-hour opening round of the European Le Mans Series this afternoon, and then tomorrow the 6-hour race, the opening round of the World Endurance Championship here at Silverstone, crossing the start-finish line, waiting an age, and he goes into third place. Nicolas Lapierre just half a second down on Coletti, but 1.7 seconds down on Besch, who of course at the same time is out on the circuit going as fast as he possibly can on this still very slippery track. As you can see, prototype cars aren't supposed to skid sideways. We enjoy watching it very much indeed, but the number 23 there with Paul-Luc Chatin really being pushed very hard, compromised no doubt by not having the track position, being held up by the race performance Orica 03R in front of him.
Yeah, being well, shadowing Frank Mailleur's every move there, but Mailleur a little slower through the Maggots Beckett's Chapel Curve complex. Let's mention quickly the innovative car driven at the moment by Christophe Tanso, the 84 machine. It's done a time of 2:18.281 in a class of its own, but Tanso a little quicker on this lap. Still though, Paul-Luc Chatin can't get the right side of Frank Mailleur, and he can't apply the power out of Stowe. That was a very tail-happy number 23 car, and nowhere near the sort of speed that Frank Mailleur carries into the Vale. Still quickest Matthias Besch then, a 2:06.4 is the time to beat.
Yeah, he was close to it.
40 seconds to go.
Yeah, he was close to it, but didn't improve that time around. Looking to see if Coletti can get any closer. He has to get into the 2 minutes and 6 second brackets. He's only got 2 minutes 7.5. We have a spin of the Algarve Pro Racing car. Has gone into the gravel on the exit of Club Corner. There we are. Didn't get to complete that flying lap, and that's Indian driver Parth Gopard. He's around in the LMP3 ranking, so he's blown it on that lap, I'm afraid.
Parth Gopard then bringing out a yellow flag at the final corner. Windscreen wiper still on, but that will compromise everybody else surely as they come through the Vale and Club Corner, and that therefore may concrete the times at the pointy end of the field. Matthias Besch put in a time very early on. Meanwhile, the number 21 Dragon Speed car driven by Nicolas Lapierre coming into the yellow flag area.
Well, this will be the end of his final flying lap because the checkered flag is out, so he will do one flying lap fewer than all his rivals, only compromised out of the final corner. He's been pushed. He was third at the end of his last lap. He's fallen down to fifth behind Roussel and Tinknell, and obviously had to back off, so that lap has left him in fifth place. Will anyone else go quicker?
Good times through sectors 1 and 2, and all of a sudden a purple time appears next to Matthias Besch's name. It's a sector 2 time, so 53.2. Matthias Besch could be set to improve as we see a spin for the 22 car from So 24 by Lombard Racing. And
it's Vincent Capellaire.
It's now pointing in the right direction, thankfully. Meanwhile, here is Matthias Besch. So we know he's been quick through sector 2. We're going to have to wait a little while to see the sector 3 time. He comes through club corner to see the checkered flag, so this is last chance, and he does not improve. A 2:06.7, only 0.3 of a second away from his best time.
Well, Tinknell has just crossed the finish line. He stays down in fourth place. The 41 entry with Kuba Gimasiak doesn't improve. Nobody is improving, but the impressive thing about Besch, not only fastest by 1.1 seconds, nobody else got below 2 minutes 7.5. Besch did 3 laps in the 2 minute 6s.
Wow, a whirlwind session there for the LMP2s, the LMP3s and the GTEs. The grid is set then. Congratulations to Thierry by TDS Racing, to 360 Racing, and to the guys that took pole position in GTE, Aston Martin Racing, with a great lap from Richie Stanaway. From the European Le Mans Series qualifying sessions though, from Bruce Jones and myself, Johnny Palmer, it's goodbye for now.
Chassis manufacturers in the top 4. Ross Kaiser puts the number 6 Ligier on pole for the LMP3 category, and Richie Stanaway and the 96 Aston Martin on pole for GTE class. And that's it for qualifying. Join us at 2 o'clock local time as we will begin the warm-up for the 4 hours of Silverstone, the first round of the European Le Mans Series, and countdown agreed at 2 o'clock local time, and it's all here live on RadioLeMans.com.
Information to the pit wall. The qualifying for WEC will start at 11:54. Qualifying for WEC will start at 11:54.
The RadioLeMans.com travel club is the best way to get to the biggest motorsport events.
Ready-made packages or bespoke itineraries for Le Mans, Daytona, Sebring, the Nürburgring, Spa and Bathurst, and many more. We've got them all covered so you can be there.
Accommodation, flights, ferries.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a slightly damp Silverstone as we are getting ready for one of the quickest turnarounds ever between 2 different series. The ELMS have just finished their qualifying, and because they are in a different pit lane here, Silverstone having two different pit lanes available. The 2 main series are using 1 each, which means we can do this turnaround so very quickly.
We're going green, John, for GTE qualifying in just a few seconds' time, by the look of things.
Yeah, 20. In fact, it's green now. That's interesting because the 25 car from the previous session was still making its way back round to the pits.
Right.
So that's quite remarkable as that heads off.
Just want to see that Ford coming out. Just setting up the angle of that picture. No worries. GTE, John. What we got here? Brand new look for GTE Pro this year.
Yeah,
GTE
don't forget, now GTE steps back to as it was a couple of years ago, Graham,
actually
where
freezes.
Effectively no new cars in GTE in FIA
In terms
or
of,
ELMS this
in terms
year.
of spec. So basically it freezes as it was last year.
So even if you wanted one and Ford were prepared to sell you a Ford GT, which they aren't, there's no customer cars available and neither will there be for at least a couple of seasons, you couldn't have it.
Absolutely correct.
Is the answer to the question.
But the big story in GTE is the car we're looking at now. It's the Ford GT, an extraordinary looking car, and it gets all the more extraordinary the closer you look at it.
From the back, actually, it's pretty impressive from the front. If you are a detail geek, look at it from the back, because it is quite frankly remarkable the amount of detail that's gone into that. The two flying buttresses on the side have a wing profile that you would not be allowed in LMP1 because those surfaces would have to be flat. The headlights, the tail lights, which are the little red donuts, do actually have a hole in them, and that helps. There's a duct behind that helps take air out from underneath the rear wheel arches and the engine cover, but so it doesn't ruin the aerodynamic effect of the rear wing and the rear diffuser, the air coming off the rear diffuser. There's actually a vortex generator within that to spin the air out through. And I just wonder if there will be some conditions sometime during the season that we actually see little twirly...
That's a very, very good point. Yes,
little twirly contrails coming out of the rear lights.
A bit of dye in that might be quite nice as well, dear me. But certainly very obvious that Chip Ganassi Racing takes the option boxes on the Ford order list for whistles and bells for that car. It is an astonishing looking piece of kit, and whilst the car we're looking at the moment, this is the brand new Ferrari 488 GTE, may look reasonably similar from a distance to the previous Ferrari 458, it almost couldn't be more different under the skin. Completely different aero on this car, and highly advanced it is too, and a turbo V8 engine for that car. So standing trackside of the WEC. Oh, as off goes the remaining 458, the 83 car, goes off the track. That's in the hands of Manu Collard.
You don't say that every day. Oh no, that was an issue on turning, Graham. That's in the very, very quick turning to Abbey, isn't it?
But kept it out of the barriers. But was, I think, quite lucky to do so. Went off very fast indeed. Car 83 has continued. Turn 4. But a very new look, not just for the Fords, but to the Aston Martins too, with the bustle, I think we'll call it, diffuser on the rear of those cars.
Ford have flattered to deceive in their first two races this season in the United States. Beset with problems in the Daytona, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Had one car go better at Sebring at the Mobil 1 12 hours, but even that car was not without incident. It seemed to have trouble coming out of the pits and at restarts. This is a car, remember, that has been more than 2 years in the planning and more than 18 months now on track.
Absolutely.
And just does not seem to be delivering the levels of performance or reliability that a car that far into its development programme one might expect. Dual programme, of course, for Chip Ganassi Racing, with two of these cars in the IMSA Championship, two here making their debut in Europe. The umbrella organisation is the Chip Ganassi team, but they do have a European base about 4 miles from where we're standing now.
And the Ford ducking out of that lap, going straight back into the pits.
Not right.
As Ricard Lietz comes powering by. Now, we know this Porsche. We'll talk a little bit about the team colours here in a short while, but this is the reigning GT champion, Ricard Lietz, in a car that we know really likes the damp conditions, the wet conditions, the rear engine helping with traction for that car. But Ricard Lietz goes through in the number 77. Dempsey Proton Racing. Patrick Dempsey not involved in the driver lineup here, but I gather is it today or tomorrow, Patrick?
No, I haven't seen him today, and he would normally come and say hello to me to get some hair tips.
Absolutely, of course. that rugged good looks of yours. 2:14.263 is the lap posted by Ricard Leitz. Stefan Mucker has gone through in the other Ford. We saw the 67, that was the 66, 2:15.2. And then we get into the AM cars completing quick laps. And it's Wolf Hensler in the number 78 car that has gone through to complete the lap. And that, I think, that's the KCMG car, isn't it? The blue and white Porsche. So Wolf Hensler leads the way. So it's Porsche, Ford, Porsche, Porsche, Porsche. And those last three are all, at the moment, GTE AM cars. Wolf Hensler, Klaus Bachler doing a one-off here with Pat Long busy in Long Beach. And Adam Carroll in the 86, the achingly pretty Gulf Racing UK Gulf engine, Gulf liveried car. James Collado.
Oh, that's a puncture on the. You see, that's how you do commentary. Right rear of
83.
The 83. Now that was Emmanuel Collard. That's why he went off.
Ah, right.
I did see on turning, he clearly had an issue, and the issue was that one of his front wheels was off the ground.
James Collado goes quicker though, and a lot quicker in the 51 Ferrari 488 GTE. 2:11.764 now for James. Steps up to the, what you have to say is the lead AF Corsa factory-backed, factory-blessed Ferrari, alongside Jimmy Bruni, multiple WEC champion and multiple champion everywhere else as well, and is going quicker again on this lap. Remind, it's different qualifying to many of the motorsports disciplines you'll see. It's the combined average of single lap each for two drivers. This is very much a team sport. And the WEC's qualifying procedure is designed to reflect that, and in particular, when we get to talk about GTE AM, you have to have the non-professional ranked driver rankings come into this as part of the duo going in qualifying. So it's not just going to be about who's quicker in this early part of the session, it's going to be about how quick the second driver is as well, and average those two laps out on a pure average.
Decent crowd here at Silverstone, despite the snow flurries that we had this morning, and really should pay tribute to the guys and ladies who have been out here and have braved the conditions. Now we're getting laps coming in, but of course at the moment nobody's got any times in terms of the qualifying averages, because no one has had both drivers in.
It's the Ferraris though now first and second quickest. James Collado ahead of his 2015 teammate in the 71 car. Davide Rigon goes second fastest, so 2:11.5 for James, 2:12.9 for Davide, and then Ricard Leitz's time sets a little earlier at 2:13.4 before we get to Klaus Bachler in the fastest of the GTE AM cars at the moment.
I see what they've done. They've not got the times on the screen that I expected.
These are not the times you're expecting.
Indeed. Right, James Collado, Rigon, Leitz, Mucker in Pro, Bachler, Roberti, Hensler and Carroll in AM.
And Collado improves to a 2:11.589 last time around. And Davide Rigon improves too and goes, still stays second, just 0.3 of a second off now. So this average is going to count.
Now, let's talk about tyres. Round black, one at each corner. And extremely important, big slide by the 71 of Davide Rigon as he went through Abbey. Let's talk about the tyres. The GT cars can pretty much throw tyres, the GT Pro cars can pretty much throw tyres on as they wish. So I expect all 7 of those cars, when they come in and change driver, as they'll be doing any second now, and Louise will keep an eye on this for us, we'll throw a new set of tyres.
You'd expect so.
Wets are free. And 77 and 66 are doing that now. Now, there's no point in not throwing tyres at this because wets are free. When we get later in the season and there are dry tyres in dry tyre qualifying, how and when you use new tyres, particularly for the prototypes, is going to be far more important.
It's going to be the opposite.
This is a real bonus for the P2 drivers this weather.
It's when the opposite of a small peppermint comes in. It's the tactics that come into this qualifying discipline. And it was a slow burn in the first season, but it's been refined and refined again, and actually now really works. It really does.
Ricard Leitz already out. 66 Stefan Mucker already out. what do we call those, butterfly doors. Let's go down to Lou in the pits. Lou, what do you have?
97's just coming in. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here because they've got a set of inters out ready.
Oh, that's very interesting.
And of course, the big difference this year for the Aston Martin Racing team is they're on Dunlops, the technical partner this year for Aston Martin Racing, looking to grab back some of the ground lost with developments that favoured the rear and mid-engine cars last season for Michelin.
Question for Lou, perhaps, to find out while she's down there, because I know she loves doing it. Nothing better than doing a bit of detective work. Is whether the Michelin teams in GT have access to the slick intermediate tyre that the IMSA teams have had in the States, and of course the LMP1 teams have got over in Europe. It used to be something that was exclusively for the prototype runners, but last season there was a version of it made. And yes, I know it sounds bonkers, a slick tyre that you run in the wet. Well, it's an intermediate, but it has no grooves on it, and it is it's made out of, I don't know, sponge or something.
Unobtainium.
Yes, unobtainium sponge. Louise?
The 67 Ford is just about to come in, so it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'll have an ask as well.
Thank you.
Should
Thanks,
say, by the way, it's Richie Stanaway getting out of the 97 car, having set pole position in GTE in the LMS session. Steps across. He's one of the guys doing double duty this weekend. A number of GT drivers in that list. Harry Tinknell in the Ford team, another, and a couple of the Porsche guys too.
Number of listeners, including Victor Rad. Hello, Victor. Saying, I was watching the Ford onboard carefully. Sounds like it might only have a couple or three gears, so there might be a transmission issue with the 67 car of Andy Priaulx, which just did a lap and back in. Well, that car's, no, sorry, excuse me, it's back out again, so maybe he's struggling on. The sound of a Ferrari blasting around Silverstone, never a bad thing, although we'll have to get used to the new Ferrari sounding a little more muted, with the exhausts being interrupted by a pesky turbocharger. Looking there at the number 78 car, this is a new entrant for the season. It's KCMG, of course, a team that we saw last year in LMP2 in a hotly contested title battle. They'll be back with that car for the Le Mans 24 Hours, but their season entry this year is in GTE AM, and that 78 car operating out of the Proton competition garage, but with the team manager from KCMG. Bit of a, oh no, more than a bit of an whoopsie there for the young driver Aston Martin, the 95 car with Nicky Thiem at the wheel, going off of Beckett and dropping two of its Dunlop tyres, the left-hand two, right into the dirt. And the number 98 car drops off the jacks and is about to rejoin after Pedro Lamy had the first go in that car. Very different, should say, by the way, we talked about Dunlop and Michelin rubber. Both the Pro and the AM Aston Martins are on Dunlops, but different Dunlops. The AM class car is fixed for the season. The Pro class cars is a developed, a confidential car that they can develop throughout the season, and it is a technical partnership. This is being used by Dunlop and by Aston Martin to see what they can squeeze out of the package. Or to Carol Brink, who's tuned in to qualifying here for the first round of the 2016 Championship for the FIA World Endurance. Carol in Monterey, California, where I presume it's still quite dark, but I also presume the coffee pot is on. In comes the 67. This is Andy Priaulx now back into the pit lane, and again, I've got to say, the Fords not showing at the sharp end of the field. You get the feeling, though, don't you, that the Ford effort is very much geared to and around Le Mans. 66 is the year, 67 is the famous number of the Dan Gurney car at Le Mans, the man who invented spraying champagne at the place that he invented it, i.e. Le Mans. And I just think, I wonder when we get these cars on the more wide open spaces of Spa and Le Mans, what the Ford GT performance jump might be. Considerable, I think, but Marino Franchitti telling me
yesterday that he was down at All-American Races, the home of Dan Gurney and his fantastic organisation, and was given a champagne spraying lesson by none other than the god that is Dan Gurney.
And who is a lovely bloke, signed a picture of the 2 Fords for me. Thank you to Marshall Pruitt of Racer.com. Oh, lock up on that Ford from a very long way back, and Ollie Pla doing a very good job indeed to get the Ford number 66 anywhere near round Vale and into Club Corner without it going into the gravel. I would just say the other thing that Marino said, I think, about that was that he got to actually touch the actual bottle.
He did.
Yeah.
He did.
Another issue for Nicky T.
A man and a family with a huge appreciation of the history,
Paul Dallalama.
The history of the sport. Should note at this point, John, huge spread in the times in that first session, but 2:11.5 from James Collado down to 2:22 for the 95 Aston Martin.
Big, but not all the quote-unquote pro drivers out at the same time, Graham, in fairness.
That was the pro class. I wasn't talking about including GTM.
Oh, right, okay, sorry.
It's a big spread, so a couple of cars clearly with issues. A few issues there.
Yes, sorry. It just so happened there's a pro car at the end of the thing.
Indeed.
You're absolutely right, sorry.
Even without taking that car out, it's still an 8-second spread, which is not what we're used to seeing. 2 very quick cars at the front, both Ferraris. What we're seeing now on track, John, is going to be very interesting because it's Jimmy Bruni, the established star, about to... He's pitted the 51 car.
Yeah, Sam Bird then in the 71 car. They have not got their average yet.
He's not taken a flying lap yet,
They've
Bruni.
not got their average yet, so this will be important. There's less than 3 minutes to go, and Bruni's going to be struggling here.
He's got
one of the favourites may not get a time, and they will be relegated to the back. The 51 and 71 Ferraris.
It's going to the garage.
It's in the garage.
It's going to lose the potential for pole position. It was James Collado put the car to the top of timing and scoring, but Jimmy Bruni, unless that car is out of that garage in the next 30 seconds or so, will not be able to improve. Well, it will not be able to set a flying lap, and that car will not be on pole position. So Sam Bird at the moment, sitting pretty. 2:11.9 for Davide Rigon, 2:12.9 for Sam Bird. And at the moment, that will be good enough for pole position for the 71 car.
Just a quick thought, Graham. The 71 and the 51 don't actually look that much different from the cars that were running those numbers last year. And of course, they are.
It's all under the skin. It's all under the skin.
I mean, they are entirely different. The bodywork is, pretty similar, but for the huge honking great intakes on the forward part of the wing, the
haunches.
Yes, on the haunches. Yes, the hips of the car. The chatter of the turbo wastegate, which sounds like a mid-80s Group B rally car, and I'm all up for that.
Oh, yes.
That sounds really good. And then everything else, as you say, is the aero underneath. It's all about losing drag without losing, or better still, gaining downforce. And the huge rear diffusers that have been allowed, huge diffusers, should I say, because where else would you put a diffuser other than that rear? It's like saying front nose. The huge diffusers are managing that rear airflow to a point where these cars are more aerodynamically efficient than ever before. We're hearing people talking about gains of something like 10 to 13% in downforce, but their drag coefficient is better by maybe 20 to 25%.
Absolutely. Well, the headlines before this weekend, John, were all about the coming of Ford to this championship, but at this rate, with 46 seconds to go on timing and scoring, the headlines after this session look to be all Ferrari, because they've not just taken pole here, it looks like they've taken it by a very considerable margin. The other headline, of course, is that the 51 car lost the possibility of pole. So let's wait and see what's going to happen, not just the next 30 seconds as the cars complete these final flying laps, but the gaps are such that it's going to take an extraordinary effort for anybody to take this from the 71 Ferrari.
The Ollie Pla driven number 66 Ford, having recovered from its nearly off at Vale a couple of laps ago, is now coming down to Stoke. Considering that front end lift on that car, and he's gone off again, and Ollie Pla is in the sand, or in the gravel at least, snatches down through the gearbox and rally crosses his way through the beach I was just about to say, considerable amount of front end lift and patter as he was coming up to his braking point, and he just couldn't get the car turned in. I'm guessing that if we saw that from the other side, the right-hand front wheel would have been locked up, down through the gearbox, onto the throttle, and he's out.
He managed to do it.
But he's not been able to get across and finish his lap and start another one, so he will not improve from 4th position. But I think Ford have got out of jail twice there. Once from Ollie Parr not binning it in a remarkable save at Vale 2 or 3 laps ago, but also the fact that we've lost a Ferrari, and the fastest car out there has not put in its second lap with its second, or its lap with its second driver.
And neither has the 67 Ford yet. No second average for the 67 Ford. Harry Tinknell out in
He's still out.
car.
He's still out there. It's this
finish the lap.
Into the pit lane for
71.
The 71 Ferrari. Sam Bird coming very quickly into there. That was smart by Sam.
That
Jimmy
will be
Bruni's
pole
in the pit
position
lane as well.
So 71. It's not fair to say by default there were 2 quick laps. It was a 2:11.9 for Davide Rigon, and always difficult to do a quicker lap for the second. The driver 67 does fit across the line now, so it's an average of a 2:12.4, which will be pole position in GTE Pro, because Jimmy Bruni, after just his out lap in the 51 car, brought the 51 car into pit road.
It won't be Paul.
But the 71 car will.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about you said the 67's gone across the line.
No,
sorry.
the 71 car will be pole. 51 will go to the back of the field, having not set a qualifying time.
It will go to the back of any cars that have not set its second, or it will go to where the cars. In fact, it's the only car that hasn't done
It is the only car that's not done that. So it'll be Ferrari, and alongside on the front row will be the number 77 Porsche, the only Porsche in GTE Pro. We see it now on screen. We said we'd talk about the colour of that car. No Mansai Racing this year. I believe they'll be back next year with the new Porsche currently under development. But Dempsey Proton Racing entering a single pro car this year for defending champion, drivers' champion Rickard Leitz, and his almost full season cohort last year, Michael Christensen. Michael stepping out for a single race. Congratulations in the garage there.
Good job by Sam Berg, back in a Ferrari.
His debut as in GT Pro, of course, Sam, and pole position. What a great way to start that.
Very happy for Sam. Deserves this. Let's head down to a very happy 71 AF Corsa pit. 3rd for Ferrari, but it's 3rd for Porsche, rather. Here's Luis.
Congratulations. How was that out there?
It's my first ever time I've driven this car in the wet, so yeah, difficult for me, but Davide did a great job. It's unfortunate for the sister car, but we start on pole, so it's the best place to start.
Do you know what the problem was with the other car?
No, I passed it on track, and you could smell like a burning smell coming from the rear. I don't know what it is, so I don't want to comment on it. It's just a real shame for James and Jimmy, but very happy for my crew. Everybody on the 71 has worked very hard over the winter, so I'm really chuffed, and hopefully it's the start of good things to come. But it was tough, first time, so good.
And out on the wet, you've got Porsche alongside you. Were you expecting them to be so close?
Yes, because they're the current world champions, of course, and they're fantastic in the wet, always very quick in the wet, so we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Louise Beckett back with us again in 2016. The happy drivers for the pole position. Sam Bird doing a very good job indeed. The Porsche that will be alongside, excuse me, I was looking at the outright times, the average times, 2:11.5 to 2:12.4 rather to 2:13.8. A huge difference between the Ferrari, but with an 11.5 in the bank from Jimmy Bruni. James Collado must be cursing his luck.
That was Collado. It was Collado.
Excuse me, it was Collado did the 11. Jimmy Bruni must be cursing his luck.
Should say as well, John, we were saying about second place on the grid from the Porsche. We see again Ollie Plar rally crossing out. Very rally soundtrack to that one, isn't it? We talked about the turbo chatter on the Ferrari, but much the same with the Ford powering out of the gravel trap.
Yeah, well, that's the EcoBoost engine, isn't it? That they've been racing. AF Corsa take pole position for the 6 hours of Silverstone in the GT Pro category, and it's Abu Dhabi Proton Racing, the 88 Porsche for the AM class. Ford Chip Ganassi will, I'm sure, make a big deal of third position. Rather looked into that with the demise of the AF Corsa car at the bottom. Did not complete a second timed lap for Jimmy Bruney after James Collado had put the fastest lap in the session in on that car's first run. Got to be in it to win it. There's a few cars out of position. That 95 car of Nicky Team out of position as well. Just managed to get its second lap in right at the end of the session.
It may be proof of the pudding that there wasn't a lot of time for wet weather testing with the Dunlop rubber for the Aston Martins, and they prop up, I'm afraid, the order, the pros and the AMs. We see the
new headlight
Rebellion.
structures in the Rebellion.
It's a pretty car. It's a very pretty car. And
they had, if you remember, they had a slightly different headlight in that looked very Peugeot-like, one might have said.
Because it was a Peugeot-like.
Want to say that?
Well, Orica had some left.
It's a 908.
Orica, of course, ran a customer car.
Yes, they did.
And there were some spares left. And
right, Graham. Prototypes. Prototypes in the World Endurance Championship. We have been focusing over the last few seasons, and rightly so, on the front end of the field. And I don't think anybody has an issue with that. However, LMP2 this year...
It's gone boom in a good way.
Yes, it really has.
Lots and lots and lots. 11 cars, I believe. Am I right? 11 cars here?
Including, well, we've got 2 Manners, whereas only one is a full season entry, but effectively forget about Le Mans because it's here for the rest of it.
It is indeed 11 cars. And, well, talking about the LMP2s just briefly, in number order, it's number 26 car. This is the G-Drive Racing car. The orange car, you can see that back at the little row. That's now run by Jota Sports and is an Orica, but still with the Nissan engine. You know, look there at the first sight for this qualifying session of the first of the Toyotas, number 6 Toyota TS050.
They will not be happy to see wet weather here.
Nope.
That is an extremely slippery car, built for the long, fast straights of the Circuit de la Sarthe. We'll see that car out later on. The green car at the front. Now, these guys...
Most successful car of the season so far, or team of the season so far.
Team, I mean, and we have to make that point because their car that has won the 36 Hours of Florida, being the Rolex 24 Daytona and the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, is here in Europe and ready to go to Le Mans. The chassis is, and it's ready for Michael Shank Racing. So we have got an opportunity for a team to win the 3 big races of the year, and we've got a second opportunity for a chassis to win.
But not the same chassis.
But not the same, yeah, but not the same team.
Look at the extraordinary front end of an extraordinary Audi for 2016. We had a brief view, by the way, of the front end of the CLM, the Bicolis car.
Which is new.
Privateer car, but with a lot of attention being paid to Front Aero there, as they, same as Rebellion, you can see there, the second car, flat grey car with the bright yellow wing at the rear. That car with
That's
a very
new tub for this year, isn't it?
New tub, new front aero, and a couple of new, well, one returning driver, one new driver in the shape of Ollie Webb, stepping up from LMP2. There is the number 1 car, the defending world champions, Porsche, with the revised, evolved 919 hybrid. That's the G-Drive car, the reigning championship team in LMP2, but with a different backroom team. Roman Rusinov, the only driver carried over this year for that squad, in garage now with, well, the anticipatory looks of the Toyota management team as the Audis begin to roll out ready for this qualifying session. I wonder, John, whether just having a few more P2 cars out there to play might play a part here.
Yes.
Very tippy-toe. These are not the conditions that I think anybody, apart from possibly the LMP1 privateers, wanted for qualifying. May help to close the gap just a little, but of course the four-wheel drive way in which the power is distributed by some of the P1 hybrid cars will be a plus with marginal conditions. Less marginal than they were, by the way, at the start of ELMS qualifying, less than an hour ago.
Open pit exit.
We're about to go green. Eduardo Freitas tells
10,
us 15.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit lane is now open. open. The session has started. The session has been declared wet.
And the competitive part of the 2016 FIA World Endurance Championship gets underway with qualifying at Silverstone. What can only be described as transitional and difficult conditions on the arena circuit, which is the name for the Grand Prix track when it's not being used for Grand Prix racing. The 45 Manor, resplendent in red, white and black.
Very McLaren orange, actually, that red, when you think it floats up.
It's definitely red, not orange.
It's an orangey red.
It's definitely red, not orange.
Tangerine mandarin-y type red.
I know that Graham Loudon, who is the team manager for that team, was absolutely insistent that those cars had to be red and white, not black and white.
I think there's a good reason for that. They run out of black paint.
Well, he's harking back. He's a Newcastle United supporter, and he's harking back to Newcastle's early days when they actually played in red and white.
In car now, in the number 1 Porsche, and aboard the car for this opening part of the session.
This
is Mark Webber. Goes very wide, not there.
Watch this. Look at the kilometres an hour climbing. We're into Beckett. Now we use the downforce. Now ahead of Mark
is the CLM.
Oh, is he going to get through? No. Be nice to go back on board with Mark, but we'll have a quick listen to Mike Conway in the Toyota.
Struggling to accelerate, guys. Struggling to accelerate. Repeat.
Grip. It's a premium.
No, I think do you think that's what he means, or do you think he's got an issue?
Oh well, no, you might be right.
He's got a systems issue.
Let's wait and see.
What I learned again when we went down to Ricard for the prologue, where all these teams debuted their cars, really, certainly on track action, was that the art of being a racing driver in LMP1, as Mike Conway I think has just gone off the track there. The art of being a racing driver nowadays is being able to talk to computer scientists and get them to get the systems to work together in a way that is complementary to making the car go quick around the circuit.
In the best possible way. It's Formula Geek, and I love it. It's fantastic.
Formula Geek.
Look at this car.
Right, hang on, watch this. In front is a very, very competitive LMP2 car, and it's about to disappear at warp speed on a short straight down to Abbey. And I thought Mike Conway had... that's not Mike Conway.
That's the SMP racing car. That is the number 27 car.
And that has got on board...
Maurizio Mediani. Another 2-driver squad, by the way, this weekend. David Markosov, who was slated to drive that car, not available for Silverstone.
Let's go on board with Anthony Davidson, who had many spins this morning when he was out in the snow.
It feels like I have no boost. I didn't have any boost.
That's the same issue as Conway had. Trouble with the battery packs for Toyota Hybrid. Now, worth mentioning that Toyota have kept the same ways of harvesting their hybrid power. They're very, very efficient and clever KERS systems, or ERS systems, on front and rear axle. What's changed this year, twofold, is the storage medium now being lithium-ion batteries rather than the supercapacitor, and the internal combustion engine, down from a whopping nearly 4-litre V8 normally aspirated petrol engine to a tiny dual-like twin turbocharged 2.4 V6.
Correct, and actually what you saw there was Anthony not able to pass the Manor P2 car.
Yeah, I think he was letting his teammate by as well. Porsche have been imperious in the early sessions. If you've been listening to our coverage over on our sister service, radiolemans.com, they have bossed it. Brendan Hartley, by accident, dropped a sandbag around the back of Beckett's yesterday and did a 39-something.
39.655.
And I don't think he was meant to do that because he was fully a second quicker than anyone else. He's not going to do that today.
Oh my gosh, they've had the first two flying laps, both of the Porsches, separated by 7,000ths of a second. 157.353 for Neil Janney in the number 2 car, and 157.360 for Mark Webber. Third fastest overall at the moment is a P2 car. It's Pipo Derani in the 31.
10 seconds back from the Porsches.
But Andre Lotterer and Eloic Duval go through, and they too separated by a very small margin, but a 1/10.5 between the two Audis, 3rd and 4th at the moment.
Best of the P2 cars is the Pipo Derani driven machine. This is the car he shares with Chris Cumming, the Canadian. in the ESM team. And Pipo has been the absolute star of 2016's international prototype racing season, such as it has been so far. It looks to me as though Ligier have found a real star now, effectively their works driver alongside Ollie Platt.
Trouble, I think we're hearing, is that right, for the 13 Rebellion? Is that correct, Lou?
They've just brought them back into the garage, unfortunately. Can't see what they're working on at the moment. I'll get back to you.
Thank you. That car has not set a flying lap yet, I'm afraid. But one car that is setting a flying lap, so the CLM at the moment, is the quickest of the 3 privateer cars. The number 12 car, Rebellion car in the hands of Nick Heidfeld, continues to lap and will now, I think, set a flying lap. Where does that put him? It puts him behind the CLM, and they're separated by just a couple of tenths. So James Rossiter currently aboard the number 4 car, 7th quickest overall, behind Pipo Derani, but quicker than both Rebellions, with one of the 2, the 13 car, in the garage. Meanwhile, an improvement, and a fairly substantial one, for Neil Janney, a 154.833 for the car that could not get a break last year, got all the luck, all of it bad last season. So the 2 car, Janney at the moment quicker than Mark Webber by just under 7 tenths of a second. 154.2 plays 154.8.
From Sam Collins of Race Car Engineering down in the pit lane. Not a hybrid, probably, he believes, thinks it's turbo issues on that car. So when they were talking about on both cars, yes, both of the Toyotas, the 6 and the 5, Matt Guest out on the circuit saying, tweeting at Specutainment and at DSC Editor, the Porsche sounds amazing when it lifts off. It's like a space shuttle. The Porsche, I mean, Porsche have had a year at this technology. They know it now. It works for them. They have 2 hybrid systems, as do Toyota, but they seem to have refined this even further this year.
Audi, top of the shop, number 7, Andre Lotre goes through, 154.258. They're getting their heads around this new car quickly. What can Porsche do now? Andre Lotre, the number 7 Audi, quickest lap of the session.
Changes for Audi this year, technical. Still only 1 hybrid system, unlike their 2 competitors. It's just the front axle where they get hybrid in terms of being able to harvest and deploy the energy. They've stuck with their diesel engine, but the flywheel, as the supercapacitor for Toyota, has now gone, and we have a lithium-ion battery pack for those guys, but only at 6 megajoules. The other 2 guys have got more hybrid power, more hybrid energy per lap to use.
The fastest time of the session has been matched to the 1,000th by Neil Janney. Now that shows it actually in the wrong order, because it will surely be the car that set it first.
Correct.
That will go for that. At the moment, Lotre has shown 2nd on timing and scoring, but that will change because it was Lotre that set the fastest lap. Doesn't matter now, because Lotte's just got a full second quicker, 153.201, and what clearly are improving conditions. Should mention, by the way, as we see the number 31 car going off in the hands of Chris Cumming, who's just come out in that car. It's number 31 ESM car. As we look at...
Sorry, I thought there was something hanging down from the car to mark on our screen.
That's Imperatori coming out in the 13 car. It's the number 43 car, the RGR car that's 2nd quickest in the session. That was Felipe Albuquerque in LMP2.
Right, we're coming down to 10 minutes, which is half distance. The question is now, do you stick or twist? You're saying to your driver, and by that I mean you're saying to your drivers, is there a better lap in your car, or shall we bring you in? But don't forget, if the second driver gets in and does a good time, very quickly, there's nothing to stop you banging your first driver back in again. We saw that happen last year, and in these conditions, Graham, with no tyre usage penalties, because wet tyres are free on safety grounds, as are intermediates, it's only the slick racing tyres that aren't, then you could give it a shot all the way through.
Absolutely.
And just keep throwing tyres on it. Out goes the Manor, as the number 8 Audi is now down through the Beckett's complex for Loic Duval, who went out in the snow this morning. I think that was his call. He went out when the snow was at its worst, but at its most photogenic, And on the radio said, they were actually coming in to do a racing pit stop, but on the radio said, make sure you get a picture of me out in the snow. It's the first time I've ever done this.
He did indeed, and boy was it snowing. Should say, John, if Audi can keep this where it is, and the top 3 cars now all on pit road together, Andre Loeffler just pitting behind Neil Janney and Mark Webber, this would break a long streak of pole positions for Porsche with the 919 hybrid.
Back to here last year.
No, it was longer than that. It was, I think, back as far possibly as COTA the year before. They set pole position with either of the 2 cars everywhere last year with that dominant technical package of the 919 hybrid. But I think it's either the 12th or the 13th consecutive race. I'll check. And it's now an Audi 1-2 because Loic Duval goes through also in the 53s. So number 7 Audi from number 8 Audi, 2 and 1 Porsche. We weren't expecting this, John.
Well, I don't know. What does this tell you? All right. I'm going to defer to you because you said you thought the Toyota might have reliability problems. I'd been told by the team, and I chose to believe it, that it'd be trouble-free in its development. 11,000 kilometres or something ridiculous like that it's covered. I think Porsche versus Audi is a harder one to call. Audi have, yes, changed their package, whereas Porsche have probably the most stable package of the top 3 manufacturers since last year. But I always thought that Audi had something up their sleeve. But you never count out Porsche.
Oh no, there's still time yet.
We should mention LMP2. It is still the 31 Ligier. Chris Cumming is trying to get his first flying lap in, and has not yet done that, having taken over the car from Pipo Derani. So at the moment, Ricardo Gonzalez in the 43 is the fastest of the drivers, or fastest of the cars. Their average time, just scratch that, nobody's had their second drivers in P2, so no worries. We are getting towards the time when they need to think about it, Graham, aren't we? In fact, Nick Leventis has just gone out of the pits. David Cheng, Rennie Rast, Ed Brown, Gustavo Menezes and Tor Graves all out as second drivers out of the pit lane, should I say it. Toyota out and back in again. This is the number 6 car, and it's still Mike Conway. Mike hasn't done a lap. Louise, this is not good. Time is running out for Toyota. Mike hasn't put a representative time in, and they may not get the second driver in it yet.
Well, Stefan Tarazan is at the ready, as are a new set of WECs to go on the number 6.
Thanks, Lou. Don't like the sound of this.
Not a lot of changes coming in P2 at the moment, John. So Rennie Rast now aboard the number 26 car. That's a second driver change. All 3 drivers have been in that car.
I'm not sure you're allowed to do that.
It showed up as guns. Well, it can't. Well, it started the session showing Felipe Albuquerque in that car. Gonzalez then got in. It's now showing Rennie Rast, who's just gone out in that car. All 3 drivers.
Did Gonzalez actually get in, though?
Oh, sorry, I'm talking about the wrong car.
Yes.
I'm getting confused here. Rennie Rast is the G-Drive car.
Yes.
My apologies, dear viewers.
No, it's all right. Early part of the season.
Yeah, well, forgive me that one.
I was just agreeing. And important news from the pit lane from Louise Beckett.
Yeah, the number 26 G-Drive has just swapped to Inters.
Thank you. Well, that's brave, but Rennie Rast, it could be the man to do it. A man with huge experience in GT cars. Sort of a Porsche specialist almost, Graham, really.
Absolutely.
And perhaps slightly so, not being given the opportunity to drive a Porsche prototype when some of his GT colleagues were allowed. Speeding in pit lane for the 12, Nelson Piquet Jr.
So still Audi 1-2 as the second driver is getting up to speed now in these factory prototypes.
Still problems for Rebellion number 13. Alex Imperatori has
not managed to get back out.
Yeah. René Rast back into the pits.
That could be significant, John, because that is the provisional pole-scoring car. We saw in GT Pro the provisional pole-scoring car not getting a second average lap.
I think they are coming into the pit lane because Rast's gone out thinking he could probably use Inters, and he's come back in saying, no, absolutely not. Let's bang another set of wets on, and give me the 4 minutes to get out and get around again. Wow. That is Alex Imperatori, is it not? Going back to his car?
I believe that isn't Alex
it's not. Alex Imperatori is still in the car.
It's not Don Kryheimer either.
Don Kryheimer with the funniest image this morning in his race gear with his multicoloured Rebellion Racing ski jacket type overcoat on, full helmet, with 2 brooms stuck underneath his arm in the full
Clamor-esque,
full shoes position, aerodynamic tuck ski position as the snow was coming down. Marcel Fesler still with the fastest lap, 1:53.2. And now has the fastest average as well, a 55.8. Or should I say the first driver in the 7 car. Who took the 7 car out again first, Graham?
Lotra.
It was Andre Lotra,
yes.
was it?
Nakajima going quicker this time, but needs to. Big gaps between the top 4 and the Totas, those woes early in the session. A big gap too for the second of the 2 Porsches, number 1 car. This has not gone at the moment the way that Porsche wanted to do this. I'll correct myself, by the way. I think this may have been a 6 race pole position streak for Porsche. 36 Alpine, 66 Alpine. That car at the moment in the hands of Gustavo Menezes, who was very quick in free practice, going just off the circuit but rejoining. Porsche try do what they can to battle back. Marcel Fesler, meanwhile, has done the fastest. That's not the fastest lap of the session.
That was the earlier lap. Let's have a listen to what Brendan Hartley is saying.
Okay, Brendan, just keep pushing every lap, mate. Keep pushing every lap. We're lucky with traffic or not. Keep pushing, mate.
I think that was Kyle Wilson-Clark.
Wilson-Clark
on the 1 car, the championship car that he engineered to the championship. Used to work for Audi, now working for Porsche. And of course, Lena Gade, now working for Audi, about to take up a new career in a managerial post at Bentley Motors. Will be after Le Mans before she takes up that new post.
The Porsches in line astern are pushing, but not as quickly as the Audis, but both cars improving the first sector on this, what will be
nothing between them again.
Lap.
10 1,000ths of a second. This is 2 cars perfectly prepared. 4 drivers, very evenly matched. This is team racing at its very, very best indeed. Up towards Stowe then
it's Marcel
Fesler. Taking the middle of the road, trying to find the grip, riding the red and white curb on the exit. Comes down the Vale. Again, not on the normal line. He's trying to find a little bit of grip offline where the rubber isn't. Significant change to the rear end of that car and the wing end plate shape since we saw it in December when it was unveiled to Audi staff, and he's gone across in a 53.204.
6,000ths of a second between the fastest lap of the first driver, Andre Lotra, and the fastest lap set just now by Marcel Fesler. 1:53.201 for Lotra, yeah. 1:53.207 for Fesler, 1:53.204 the average. Astonishing stuff. I think that was an improvement too, and it was the fastest lap of the session for Lucas de Grassi.
52.911.
52.911. That means that the gap between the 2 Audis at the lead of the timing and scoring is just 4,000ths over a tenth of a second. 53.2 to 53.3. This is an astonishing session in tricky conditions from Audi Sport. checkered flag is out. Who can improve? And both the Audis are going quicker. And it's almost enough in terms of the difference between them, because De Grassi is quicker than Fessler. Could pole position change hands on this, the last flying lap of the session? Quicker too, but not as quick as the Audis is Brendan Hartley, and that's changed, hasn't it? The number 1 car's gone ahead of the number 2 car, so Hartley puts the number 1 car up into 3rd.
It could be last Audi across the line gets pole.
And that's because Hartley has done the quickest lap of the Porsches at 1:53.6. That is more than a second and a half slower than what the Audis have managed.
They will pick up some time in this last lap, Graham, but not 1.6 seconds.
No.
It's between the 2 Audis, for my money. I was spectacularly wrong in LMP3 qualifying. Let's see if we can try and pull something out of the bag here as the 8 car, De Grassi, comes to the braking point at Stowe.
De Grassi could take it here.
He's got the best of conditions. Oh, he's just a little bit wide there, tries to straighten out, coming down the hill. He'll be in the middle of the road for Vale, and he's gone off. He was just trying too hard. I think they're very muddy on the piece of the circuit between Vale and Club. Now he's got to do another lap, of course, because he's gone past the pit.
But John, this is going to be a 1-2 for Audi Sport, and the debut of the Audi R18. The first time these cars have been used competitively. We've seen them in testing, we've seen them at the WEC Prologue, we've seen them in free practice, and now head-to-head with Porsche, they are going to have the first point on the board, and we can say that once these cars hit the pit road, Audi will lead the World Endurance Championship.
Well, yes, indeed, that's very true.
And oddly enough, an Audi factory driver will lead LMP2, because René Rast will bring around the G-Drive racing car to pit, having cemented for the 26 squad under the G-Drive banner, operated by Jota Sport, of course, to pole position in LMP2, the 26, ahead of Pipo Derani, bringing home the 31 Tequila Patron car, and the 43, another Audi factory driver, in the 43 RGR racing car.
Well, happy scenes down at the Audi pit. The lady with the ponytail there, Eva Maria Becker, congratulations to her. Used the off-season to get married to her long-time partner, and we wish them the best. Louise has got the, I'm sure, pleasure of speaking to the 7 team. It's Andre Lotterer with Louise Beckett. First pole sitter for 2016. It's Audi.
Andre, that was a great performance.
Yeah, it was good. Of course, really nice to be in pole position. It's been a while for us, and nice reward for the mechanics, really. They only slept an hour and a half. It's really hard work for us with a new car, but nice beginning for our new R18.
Were there doubts, or did you expect that, and maybe you were holding a bit back?
Well, it was really difficult to expect anything, you know. Yesterday the Porsches were quick in the rain. It was difficult for us to understand, because the conditions were changing a lot, and also now even we just had to go out there and drive as fast as we could, and then yeah, the final results stood us well, first and second. At one stage we were thinking to put intermediate tires, but I think we did the right call to stay on the wets, because it was still a bit too wet and too cold.
Well done, thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Ooh, not happy faces down at Porsche. I think they expected a bit bigger than that, a bit better than that.
Yeah.
Timo on the right, Mark Webber in the middle, and Brendan Hartley still with the helmet on. Walked in with Brendan. We parked the Chrysler Voyager, our fun bus, out on the Stowe circuit, and Brendan had driven in behind us, and at that time it was sleet rather than the snow that came later. And he just looked and shook his head. He said, "We're not going to get tyre temperature in this weather."
Clearly, conditions have improved progressively through the day, and patently, obviously, we're improving through that session as well. But Lucas Di Grassi pushed hard, didn't quite get there.
So what a brilliant first qualifying session for the FIA World Endurance Championship for 2016. Audi locking out the front row from Porsche on row 2 and Toyota Gazoo Racing with what we think were turbo issues on row 3. They went out there, they got their laps in, but that's about all they did. And look at the times, the gaps there. By Collis Racing Team, by far the best of the privateers, because issues for both of the Rebellions. Cars just did not get out and do enough laps.
I'll check, John, but that may be by Collis's first LMP1 privateer pole against opposition.
René Rast for the 26 team. They took pole in the P2 category. G-Drive Racing in 8th position overall, ahead of Extreme Speed Motorsports, the form team, if you will, in the first part of the season. I know we haven't started here yet, but they have won both at Daytona for the Rolex 24 and the 12 hours of Sebring. Let's head down to LMP2 pole sitters here, to G-Drive. Here's René Rast.
Well, René, we saw you were throwing everything at that, even went out on inters at one point, but you still got that pole.
Yeah, very delighted, very happy. Team did a great job. As you said, we tried the first lap on inters, but it was just too early for the inters, and we went out again on wet tires. Yeah, the car was great, just one flyer. After that, the rear was gone anyway. But yeah, very happy with the pole and the 1 point.
And for you to be joining the team this year, what are your expectations? It's a great start.
Expectations are obviously quite high. I mean, this is the championship winning team from last year, and Roman and with Nace, I have some very good teammates on my side. But the competition is quite high, so let's see. But the pole position is obviously a good start.
Thank you.
The 2016 season for the World Endurance Championship makes its traditional start in the centre of the UK at Silverstone, qualifying under cloudy skies and the track conditions, what could only be described as difficult. The snow, yes, snow of early morning had given way and left a greasy surface for the teams. The Labour Competition Corvette doing good work early on, and in GTE all of the cars looking to find the grip on Silverstone's wide open spaces. Porsche, of course, always can be backed in difficult conditions. And the good news was that the 88 car for Proton Abu Dhabi Racing managed to pull the time out of the bag. In GTE Pro, difficulties for some of their competitors allowed the European debuting Ford to get up into 3rd position, perhaps a surprise 2nd for the only Porsche in Pro, the 77 Dempsey Racing Porsche. And the pole sitter expected to be a Ferrari, and it was. The 71 car claiming pole position with Sam Bird capitalising on the good work done by his teammates. The big news was their teammates with issues, and the 51 car will start at the back of the GTE grid. So with the conditions improving all the time, it was the turn of the prototypes that had the thoroughbred racing cars, and immediately it became obvious that wet weather tyres were still going to be the order of the day, with the track temperatures a chilly 6 degrees and about a degree or two cooler in the Celsius in the air. Spectators had turned out even in the worst of the weather to see the cars on the circuit. In LMP2, early pace setters, ESM in the 31. They've been the form team of prototype racing in America, but couldn't quite match the pace of the 26 G-Drive Racing squad, the defending LMP2 champions, with René Rast bringing their pole position home in 8th overall. In the battle of the big factories, Toyota were never in the mix. Turbo problems preventing the two TSO 50s from challenging their German rivals. Porsche were expected to do well here, and they went well early on, but it was Audi with two stunning sets of times by both of their drivers that claimed the front row and locked out Porsche for the first time in a very long time. The 7 car and the 8 car will start the season in the FIA World Endurance Championship on the front row, and with 1 point for pole position, Audi lead the championship. So that brings us to the end of the qualifying session. Hope you've enjoyed that. Graham and I will be back with a countdown to green on Sunday. Or, of course, if you're watching on the app, you may be watching this on demand. I'm John Hindhaugh. Bye for now.